Tshepo Matseba is a brand reputation strategist joining us now. Tshepo, good evening to you. I know you've been watching with us through the evening. Thank you for doing that. How would you assess the messaging coming from the presidency tonight?
Good evening, and thank you so much for the opportunity. I didn't watch line by line in detail, but I've got a sense of what was said from Vincent. And in a sense, really, it feels to me like, as a communicator, that we are actually regressing to where we were when the president refused to openly and upfront deal with the issues around Phala, to take the nation into his trust and his confidence. In this context, it looks like we are now delaying, we are going to consult, and in terms of the market and uncertainty that he seems to be talking about, he's actually fueling that uncertainty, because in business, investors expect certainty. They like predictability. And when you create this vacuum of postponement after postponement, you actually create more space for speculation and uncertainty and doubt. And that is going to harm, likely to harm his reputation. But also remember that he's the president of South Africa, and his actions and decisions are currently actually affecting the reputation of the country more than only himself and the ANC. It's actually right now more about the country than himself.
Tshepo, I don't mean to be rude. Sometimes we can call it messaging. Sometimes cynical journalists like me might call it spin. Is the problem that this is unspinnable?
Yeah, I mean, there's a point where in the world of communication where we say we actually moved. When I was the president of PRISA, we actually went to Barcelona, and in Barcelona we discussed the Barcelona principles. One of those principles was to shift from talking about quantity and trying to turn things around that are untenable. At some point, and this is the point, you need to have direct and open conversation. I don't want to say this, but if we were a modern country, if we were a modern ecosystem, really we wouldn't be having this discussion right now of speculation and postponements, but rather there would be an address and there would be a clear plan about what's going to happen if there's any transition that's about to happen, or any decisions that are about to be about to take place. Like I say, trying to say that we are consulting, we're engaging investors, we're engaging communities, we're engaging people in and outside of the ANC is just really confusing for the citizenry, but especially for business and for investors. It's actually upsetting because perceptions do drive markets, and when you create this kind of uncertainty and speculation, you only create space for more chaos. And I do worry about our currency and how it's going to perform in the near future, given this level of playing. It's almost like we're playing a chess game, and unfortunately this is going to impact lives here in our country, given the state of our economy and the high levels of unemployment. Right now, the best thing to do is to provide answers as quickly as possible.
So provide answers as quickly as possible. The problem, of course, is that I suppose in the real world of where our politics is at the moment, he does need to speak to people in the ANC, probably does need to wait for the ADC meeting as well. I think your point about investors really is a crucial one. I'm almost certain that what the presidential spokesperson said was probably carried line by line on Reuters, on Bloomberg, on Agence France Presse, all of those networks. When you are in a situation like Vincent Magwenya, like the presidency is right now, how do you communicate? I mean, and I would imagine it's one thing to communicate, look, there's not going to be any news here tonight. Probably worse not to communicate at all.
No. So what you want to do when you are in the middle of a tense situation that we are in right now, and what you could call a middle of a crisis, and we have now a crisis within a crisis because we are not communicating so well. But what you expect right now, what the best thing to do right now is to be upfront and transparent. So it's either we are going to speak to you about the decision that the president is taking, and that decision will be announced tomorrow at 10 a.m. And you need to make sure that 10 a.m. becomes 10 a.m. because the more you postpone, the more space you create for people, for pundits, and for people to actually create their own scenarios. And those scenarios are more damaging most of the time to the message itself than the original intent of what you are trying to do. So the reality here right now is that if you are going to, at least at a bare minimum, rebuild trust, transparency becomes crucial, and your intention must be very, very clear. And right now, we have a difficulty because we don't know what the intentions are. We know what the scenarios can be, and we can debate those scenarios, but that's leaving too much to chance. What should be happening at best practice level is to actually, if there were scenarios that he and his team have analyzed, at least they should articulate those scenarios and give us the timelines, the exact timelines about when he's going to come out with a statement. And what I've heard right now is speculation even about when he would communicate. And that, for me, I think is a dangerous way to start in such a very sensitive environment, running up towards an elective conference, but also in a country, as I say, where we are bleeding economically, and there's a lot of uncertainty, and you don't want to add to that by miscommunicating.
Tshepo Matseba, really appreciate the time.